Today we're going to start the official Ninja restoration project, and we've been waiting a long time to get this to the point it is now. We've had some changes of plans along the way, but today we're ready to start. On the videos just previous to this, we made some carbon fiber parts that today we're going to do the final lamination on, and then those will be ready to install. And then we'll decide, and I'll have to make a corporate decision on this, at which end of the motorcycle I want to start on, or which parts, because pretty much the whole motorcycle is going to get painted. It's going to get trimmed, I guess is the right word. And what we did, and we did it on previous videos, was make up out of some sticky back gold paper some of the trim ideas we might be incorporating. We're going to be doing the wheels up in gold. We've made some custom mixed gold. The forks are slated to be black, but one of the parts that we're going to work on today, the carbon fiber side panels, are down in the cellar and they're ready to be laminated with carbon fiber. And what happened, we went away to Cape May, we came back and it was winter. So we got a little bit of a head start on the restoration. I was thinking we'd have a few more riding days, which we still may have, but right now it looks like we're in winter mode. And for anybody that this might be the first windy video that they've ever watched, keep in mind, basically all of these bikes have been restored on video, and they're all out on the YouTube channel. There's, I think, 1,600 right now, but you can always go back on days that we're not able to post a video and watch some of the thrilling, I guess is the right word. We've had some adventures. And every one of the restorations that I've done has been unique. Each is a little different. Each is something that I've wanted to add to my motorcycle collection. And as the years have gone by, I've built this little collection that I've really enjoyed the restoration of, and I enjoy even more the riding of. And this was last year's restoration. I believe it went about 8 or 9 months and about 800 hours. It went through over 200 videos. But we were posting them every day and trying to keep people up to the progress that we had made, and it turned out to be a wonderful motorcycle. To me, I've enjoyed every ride I've had on it, and I've got a lot of rides left to go. And there's also out on the channel making of many carbon fiber parts. For all of the motorcycles have parts that I've made myself from carbon fiber. With the help of Dave Midgley, Dick Hewitt has supplied us with some really good carbon fiber. And every bike is unique, and I like to have every day in my shop, garage, downstairs, upstairs. I like every day to be different from the day before. So this is a good time of the year to be inside. And the thing about the restorations is they evolve as I'm doing them. I've changed the trim several times. I've changed several of the ideas I've had. But the one thing that remains the same, I still have a picture in my mind of how this motorcycle will look by the end of this winter. Now, I'm sure some people are thinking, and maybe if you're new to our channel, you'd be thinking this right away, why doesn't he just do a real sport bike, a Hayabusa, or some kind of a different bike? This is kind of a middle-of-the-road bike. Well, it really is not that middle of a road to me, because I've enjoyed every ride I've had on it for 11 years. And for 11 years, every time I ride it, it just gets more and more comfortable to me. And I wanted to put, the idea of this whole project is just to put a little bit of a custom touch on it. I don't want to turn it into some kind of a radical custom, but I do want to make it a one-of-a-kind, unique motorcycle. And it's going to be, because there's no part of this bike that I don't like. It rides beautifully. It handles the twisty roads where we ride, the bumpy roads, really nice. It gets great mileage, and it's as reliable as a cup of coffee. It's going to be worth doing the restoration on. And last year when I worked on this bike, and I worked through some pretty disappointing things with the fairing parts and things that just didn't work out the way I wanted to, and had to do them over and order new parts and get new forks for the bike. But at the end, when springtime comes, well, God, was I happy the first time I rode the bike. I've been happy with every ride. This bike has been one that exceeded my expectations. I have a feeling come springtime, this bike is going to exceed my expectations. So Rather than chit chat, it's time to cut carbon fiber cloth. Now, we started months ago with concept sketches. We wound up, and this is all on previous videos for somebody who might want to backtrack. We mixed our own gold paint from pigment, did painting tests, made a lot of stencils and patterns, and we're still working on some custom logoing for this project. Just yesterday we got our roll of carbon fiber twill, again from Dave Midgley and Dick Hewitt, and this is going to be what we're going to use for all of the carbon fiber work on this project, so it'll all match at the end. In between this project and while we're working on our own stuff, Turbo Steve, our good friend, still has some decals. His original decals didn't work out as planned. We're going to be putting the decals and the clear on this and getting him off to the Javits show. And these are the parts we previously made. These are going to replace and, well, not replace, but just be added. This, what looks like a shark's fin, added to this. When it's on the motorcycle, it changes to me the whole look of the motorcycle. And we're going to have to do a little Bondo work on this, because what I want to do, I want to fill in this radius. We're going to have to sand these parts down and get them prepped up before we actually do any of the carbon fiber, but that's hopefully going to be the project of the day. And one of the things it's very difficult for some people to do when you're going to do a carbon fiber laminate like this, there's a very tricky part of it. And that is, you got to have a way of holding it. And you got to have a way of letting it sit overnight. So that's one. And another thing, I'm going to sand these. They have some kind of a little pattern on here, like a carbon fiber, supposed to look carbon fiber, I guess, but it's plastic. And we're using our little Warrior sander. We're going to sand that down. That'll be another step of this whole project. And one final little comment I wanted to make, something that's worked real well for me, is I took a whole bunch of these pictures of the original motorcycle, or, well, we were working on it. I see the side cover pieces already on. But anyway, I change the picture on my computer every day, and I keep looking around for things that I might want to change, or I might want to upgrade, or I might want to make parts for, and I have an ongoing list. I've found about 15 things. By changing a picture, I get a different view of the bike every day. Just some little tip that works for me. Now, here's a good tip that I think everybody that ever paints or does any carbon fiber or composite work, well, I think most of them know it, but I'll just reinforce it that I learned it the hard way. Before you ever sand any part, take some degreaser, in this case Prepsol, simple green is fine too, and degrease the part as much as physically possible. The whole purpose for doing that is because your hands have grease on them. And wherever the grease winds up, this is a part I gotta save, put that over there. Wherever the grease winds up, you're not gonna get a good bond on the carbon fiber, on the epoxy, or if you're painting, you're gonna get a fisheye. And as we've found out many times you can just see, there's always something on these parts. Now, I'm going to sand these with this little Warrior. I reviewed the sander on a previous video, I think a couple of weeks ago. A couple of people have already told me they've bought them and they work great. Well, they do work great. I've used it several times already with really good results. They're under 20 bucks. With the coupon, I think they come out to 16 or something. But all the sanding in the world is not worth a nickel if what happens is, if there's a fingerprint on here, you sand it, you grind the silicone right into where you want to get a bond. So step one for anything would always be, and in some cases if it's big parts like fairing parts, I'll set up the steam cleaner or even steam clean them at the end of it just to get that last little bit of silicone off. But I want it to be perfectly grease-free, fingerprint-free, before I get the power sander out. And when I reviewed the power sander, they had these soft pads. They're like 3M pads. I bought a bunch of them. And again, these things are in a couple bucks each. Anything I can do to make it easier, it's just better for me. Bought a bunch of the sandpaper. The sandpaper is in various grits. I wanted to show this, and it's sticky back. So in this case, because I'm going to be trying to laminate carbon fiber to this, I don't want to have, I would need a little bit of a rough tooth surface for the epoxy to get a grip on. There's 80, There's 80, 100, 100, and I think this one's 120. So medium grit is fine, 100 is fine. And this is the nice part of this. This'll go very quickly. And by the way, it vacuums pretty well, because a lot of times when you're using these type of tools, boy oh boy, they make a mess. This one seems a little better than average. It's got the little suction holes in there. And again, everything available from Harbor Freight. No, I really took my time sanding that because I need to get, and anywhere there's a valley, this is a valley, this is a valley, there's a valley in here where it dips down. What'll always happen if you don't get that sanded well, you won't get a bond, and that will try to pull up as time goes by. So anywhere we have these little valleys, I'm putting some extra sanding on there. By the way, that little sander just works so good. So now I've got one done, and this is going to be fine. By taking off that fake, I guess it's fake carbon fiber looking stuff. Well, here's the difference. This, you could probably go over this, but you're not going to get the same bond as you are with this part. This is going to get a much better bond. And since we really want this to be a focal point of the motorcycle, this is one of the parts that's going to change the whole look of the motorcycle. So this is going to be something that catches your eye, and I want it to be perfect. And this is the kind of thing, it's like building a foundation for a house. You've got to take your time early on. And just patience at this point. Now the next step on this, we're going to build this fillet. I don't know what the diameter is going to be. I'm going to start small, but I want to have the look, I don't want to see that joint. I want to see this, that it just flows in. So I may have to build it up in more than one layer, but it doesn't really matter right now. We're not under any time constraint, and it's why we always do this in the winter when time is not of the essence. Now, I'd encourage anybody who's using Bondo, this is to use this material. It is just 2100. The reason is I've used AutoZone type of Bondo and the really inexpensive stuff. This is a little more expensive, about double the price. But boy, oh boy, it's fiber filled, so what happens is you don't get these hairline cracks, and it absolutely sands like butter. Now, and it's of course, it's polyester resin, so it stinks like holy hell. So I'm going to try to do most of this outside if I can. Well, the first thing is always knead this, because this tends to separate. Yeah, we'll take a little coffee break and that'll be ready to sand. And I always keep this around, just, yeah, that's hardening right up. And I've always noticed Bondo dries a lot better if you use the yellow side of the Cheerios box. Just kidding. Now once I sand this down, I'll probably put a second layer on. What I always find, if I want to get a nice smooth radius, it's much easier to do it in 2 steps than try to do it all in one. There's always some little imperfections in there, and I can get the second coat on a lot smoother. Now using a block, I'm just going to try to get the radius, nice and smooth. Then I'll put on another coat of Bondo, just a skim coat, and it'll be ready for a final sanding. And it's really nice to be able to do this outside, because as with Karen has breathing issues, and we're going to have the baby here this afternoon, and this way I'm a real popular guy because I do this outside. When I got to do it outside at 30 degrees, it's not that much fun. So the second coat of Bondo is drying. I'm going to just resand this, and even if I have to give it a third coat, it doesn't even matter, but I want that to be that when I lay the carbon on that, it's going to have that, like it just flows from one piece to the other. And it doesn't matter. It's always better, I think it is anyway, to put thin coats of Bondo on, sand them, find the imperfections, then try to lump it all on in one lump. And a final little bit of this I've got to do by hand, and I've got to radius all the edges. Again, I want to have a tooth before I actually put the epoxy over this part. I want to make sure I have no sharp edges that I catch and put a defect in that. And of course, most of the edges that are in the valley now, with all the Bondo shaping done, and certainly final sanding, one little thing I'm thinking maybe I want to do is get an ink marker or something and get rid of that green or some black paint, because sometimes the weave will show through what's underneath in little like pinhole dots, and then you try to touch them up with the black paint. That would stack the deck in my favor. Now here's what I wanted to mention. That before we do the cloth, and we're not going to be able to do it today because we have Miles coming over, of course. I want to try to figure a way of mounting this. See, a lot of people think they think something that's easy is going to be hard. It's hard that's easy. Well, one of the things that's really hard is figuring out how you're going to mount this thing while you work on it. Now, in the next session, we're going to drape carbon fiber over this, so it's going to get complicated. Now, I have to figure a way of putting this on the back. I could just glue it there, in fact, it's not a problem. But I would like to get some CA on this. I don't have to make it real fancy because I can cut this off when I'm done. But I don't want it to be so weak that it breaks either. So it looks like mounting that with some CA on a block of wood on a full gallon can. See, I want that to be relatively solid too when I'm working on it. That probably will do. I'll get the other can done. And when it comes time, we're going to cut the cloth ahead of time. That'll be ready for... See, I have to break a job up into sessions because I don't get to work all day. I babysit Miles, of course, half of the day. So what happens is I try to get to a break point. Now, a break point for this would be to have this all mounted up, sanded where we are right now, and ready to drape the cloth on, because the day we drape the cloth on, I need the whole day to babysit it as that cloth dries and constantly push the edges down and get it to sit down around here. Or if I was up by Dave Midgley, we could vacuum bag this part, but it's not an aircraft part, so it doesn't, not going to really, it's overkill. Now, the only purpose of that black paint, just so if we do have one of the little where the weave separates and you can see what's underneath, this will all be black. I don't want it to be a green, that's for sure, especially that color green. That's just stacking the deck in our favor. Now, we really stacked the deck in our favor. We're going to allow a whole day to do the lamination, and you'll understand why when you see how long it takes. It's time consuming. But the idea today was to get everything prepped up and ready and mounted, sanded, pretty much ready to go. And we are ready to go. This is really going to be, this is a defining part of this motorcycle restoration and modification. And I've got 3 or 4 other ideas in mind that I think they're all going to work out nice. Anyway, we try to post up a video every day from our shop or from whatever if we're arrested and we're in Rikers Island. Anyway, and we hope you do enjoy the video and you'll share them with your friends. And thanks for watching. Bye.